Welcome back to the Unpatched gaming podcast where we share games. I am your host, Zach.
And I'm your host, Tyler.
Tyler! T-Man!
Tyler!
Hey, man.
That's from the movie Snake Eyes.
Which you should all watch.
Yes, in which
You
Nicolas
might
Cage
not like
has a
it.
friend named Tyler.
Yeah, and that's the main thing I remember from that movie.
Yes, pretty much.
Incredible.
T-Man!
T-Man! Okay, so let's talk about 2022. It happened.
It did. That's what we're here to talk about, folks. We're here to not really do a... game of the year sort of episode.
Unquote.
Yeah, like we've done in the past. This is going to be a pretty open discussion. We've got 4 things here that we will mention very briefly. But it's really going to be an open discussion. What happened during the year for the podcast?
It's a year in review. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a reflective exercise. It's much more helpful than Game of the Year.
Why was... we're going to talk about ourselves. We're going to be a little personal. We don't have beer today. Zach has blessed me with sake.
Yes. Yes.
So-
Actually, do you want to pour it? There's a little bit in there already.
I see.
We have not had it yet. So this is translated the Seven Spearsmen. It's a Junmai sake. For those that don't know, these Junmai Daiginjo, all those things, which I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation. That's just how much they polish each individual grain of rice.
Okay.
That's literally what it is. And typically, the more polished you get, this is not exclusive, but a lot of times you'll probably get a sweeter sake. Not all the time, but so this is a kind of mid-range polish. It's not the most, but it will probably taste lovely. Cheers, or whatever you say in Japan. Oh, I just love the smell. It's it smells like a rice. Same thing I smell in a rice beer.
You know, unfortunately, this is not a smell I'm picking up. Again, last November I got COVID.
Delicate,
I lost a lot of smells. Yeah, this is it's a delicate. It must be a delicate scent. I'm not getting it. There's still many things I can't smell.
Yeah, it's a tiny bit sweet on the end, but mostly just a very clean sake. It has some weight.
Yes, both of those things are true. I don't drink sake very often, warm or cold. I think when I do drink it, I don't have a preference for warm or cold. But I like this a lot. This is easy drinking.
Yeah, and it's got a little bit of bitterness on the sides. You don't usually get that in sake. It's usually harsh alcohol if it's a bad sake, but this is just a little bit of bitterness. And
is this the percentage?
Really
3.9?
No, percentage is 15 to 16.
It's
like a wine.
What? Dude, I could chug this right now.
It's rice wine, essentially, But it's really good. I like this a lot. I am not picky with sake. There's a restaurant in town that I love called Musashino's.
I have never been.
It's actually, it's run by the guy who taught Tyson Cole how to make sushi. And Tyson Cole is big in Austin, along with Aaron Franklin. They have a joint restaurant. They have...
Uchi and Uchiko, right?
Well, Tyson Cole has Uchi and Uchiko, but together they made that brisket sushi place.
Yeah. Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
That's good.
It seems awesome.
It's a cool place.
So, they're kind
What
of...
a weird combination.
We don't have a lot of kind of star chefs in Austin, like in terms of, people that stand out by name, but those two guys that's them if there's any. But Musashino is the guy who taught Tyson Cole, and his restaurant's great, but he has a great sake list and really knowledgeable servers who know exactly how to get you what you want. I love earthy sakes, so I just go, I want something earthy, and they'll go, great, I got you. And
okay.
They'll bring me a great sake every time.
We should go sometime.
Yes, I'm going with my father-in-law next week.
Cool.
Very excited.
Cool beans.
Anyway, so, dude, we took a lot of breaks this year.
We did. It was a pretty tumultuous year for me. I'm not sure about Zach, but and I think we'll get into sort of the personal stuff a little later. You've got the agenda there, but we lost our editor late last year, was it? Nick just couldn't do the podcast anymore. He's focused on school and
work, and now he has like a bunch of creative endeavors.
Yeah,
and he's switching careers right now. So the kid is he's busy.
He's busy, and the podcast. I couldn't keep up with it doing the editing myself, and I'm just too stubborn to let Zach do it, which I know he has the time. I do have the time. I want him to do it right.
Yeah.
And I have not taken the time to show him this is all you have to do. However, so I'm a little stubborn there, but we, as you saw in the beginning of the year, we tried a few different things.
It takes the fun out of it for us too, honestly, to have a lot to edit.
Yeah.
It's editing is not something I enjoy.
No, me neither.
I bet you most content creators don't like editing.
Probably.
Just probably when they get successful, they all just make someone else do it.
So we were still, playing games. This is fun for us. We love doing the podcast, even if there are none of you listening. We love doing it. It's fun for us. Everyone should.
I'm a
go start a
firm
podcast.
believer that if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, it still makes a sound.
Okay, I like that. For this context.
Yeah.
Of course, I've heard that before.
Yeah, no, I know.
Wow! What insight!
Zach, you're so intelligent. Oh, thank you. I love The Far Side. This is a little tangent. The Far Side has a comic where it's if a tree falls on a mime in the forest, does anyone care? It's so funny. I think about it all the time.
It's very funny. But I tried a couple things to lessen the workload at the beginning of the year and then just couldn't. So we had like 6 or 7 episodes in the backlog, which was like 4 or 5 months of games that were not being edited.
Yeah, we haven't been putting a lot of timestamps in the videos either for good talking points. We haven't been chopping them up like we used to.
Yeah, which we won't. It just takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of it for us.
We will put a little more effort into timestamps next year because, and we'll talk about this as we progress.
Yeah.
It will be more sectioned and easier to do that.
There's a lot more structure coming to the podcast, and that's what we're going to talk about at the
structure
end.
that allows us more freedom.
Yes.
To really bring what we think is best about the podcast.
Yes.
Out.
And play more games. So I have played very few games this year that were not for the podcast. I just haven't had much time.
The same is true for me, except for the very beginning of the year and the very end of the year.
Yeah, me too.
Dude,
I've been able to play a bunch.
I have played a lot. We will talk.
You've played way more than me because I've been focusing on movies. Now that I've since late October, I've had more time. I've been watching a ton of movies. This year, I have seen, I think, 110 movies now. I'll probably finish with right around 115, 120 by the end of the year. That's what I've done with a lot of my spare time. I've just been seeing a lot of good stuff. And this, right here at the end of the year, I've been able to play some stuff.
Yeah.
But moving into the next year, I have a new job. It's going to afford me really all the time I want. As a contractor, I do my own work. So it'll be good. I'll have time for that. And the new structure coming to the podcast. I'll be able to play a lot more games.
I'm very happy
be less stressed. Have more time to do a little bit of editing. Still just a little bit. But as you're seeing now, very likely, assuming everything goes well, we are returning to video, though we are doing without the B-roll. So it'll just be us talking. We're going to move away from the wavelength stuff on YouTube. That's very easy, really. It's 20 minutes of work, and then if we're doing multiple episodes or multiple games, maybe it's 40 minutes of work to cut those in. But really easy stuff. I think adding the video won't be very difficult. So
that's fair.
Anyway, yeah, that's what all the breaks were for. Just way too much time. I didn't have time. I didn't want you to do the editing.
Yeah,
I was stubborn.
That's okay. I don't like doing editing anyway. But I mean, that's a good recap, I think, of the year for you. You had a pretty, like you said, tumultuous year. For me, I've just been very aimless this year. I have really come into my own in my new working at Amazon. It's a totally different world. Even though it's the same job as I was doing other places, it's just a different beast entirely. I'm finally coming into my own. Got a promotion right here at the end of the year that just happened.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
So that's
oh, wait,
good.
I knew about that.
Yeah. So it's good. It's going well for me, but my problem is I get aimless, and I you and Nick always go like, how do you fit so much stuff in? Like, how do you do so much? And it's like, because if I don't, I will do nothing. If I don't structure my time and dedicate this hours for this, these 2 hours are for this. If I don't, I won't do anything. That's why, after I graduated college, like, oh, I love writing. I wanted to be a professional writer for a long time. Writer, not writer. Ghost writer.
All right.
I wanted to be a professional writer, but I never wrote anything. I never made the time. It wasn't until I started my job at Hanger, back when I first started, back in 2016, that I started writing. And I hated everything I wrote, but I kept writing. And finally, so I would write an hour in the morning. I'd write an hour during my lunch break at work. And I started building up the amount of time I spent writing. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm writing consistently. What else can I do? And I started doing that with video games and all these other things. And
so you think this year?
I felt pretty aimless a lot this year.
Okay.
I felt pretty aimless a lot this year. I feel like a lot of our episodes need that extra oomph the new structure is going to bring and afford to us. Sometimes the game is just great and we make good conversation.
Yes.
But sometimes, I listen to some of these older episodes, not a lot, but about maybe half, and I'm like, there could have been more. There could have been more meat there.
Well, we've really come into our own now, and I think we, those meaningful conversations, what we would consider to be meaningful conversations, are happening more and more. We look at this year, we have had Pokemon, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 5. We've had Uncharted, God of War, both 2018 and Ragnarok.
Catherine.
Catherine. So we've had quite a few things that were better discussions. I think that there's something we have to offer. So I think it's becoming more and more natural.
Yeah.
However, I would like to point out, I have a feeling your definition of aimless is a little too strict. Because if you look at the beginning of the year and you look at now, I think you've accomplished a lot internally.
Sure.
There's a lot you've done a lot of work to really solidify your beliefs while maintaining an open mind.
Sure.
Your foray into
fairy tale.
Sure, but with church, not.
Oh yeah, like sacraments and deep dives into
there's a
old
word
school
for that.
theology, orthodoxy.
Yeah, orthodoxy is the word I'm looking for. I think there's that, and then there's just your look at fairy tales and what like magic in the world, what magic means.
Yeah, I just wrote an essay. It's the first
important.
thing I've published since April on my blog, and it's called Why I Believe in Santa Claus.
It's very good.
Yeah, it's
good.
pretty much a culmination of what I have thought of this year.
Yeah.
It's very short. It could probably use some work, but I was like, I don't want to spend too much time on this. So it's good. My dad loved it. He sent it to all of his sisters and brothers. He has quite a few. But even and they come from a lot of different backgrounds. One of them is extremely old school Catholic. One of them is a gay married man who lives in Vegas, just all different walks of life. And they're all like, this is good. I was like, yeah,
Nice.
Success.
Nice. And then of course, gaming. You've played so many games this year, either for the podcast or not, and you're finding out more and more what you do and don't like, why you like things.
Yeah, it took way
I feel like
too long.
internally you have not been as aimless as you think.
Probably. It's probably just feeling this kind of wavering sense at the end of the year. I don't know. But I'm hoping to just keep the momentum that I built, especially earlier this year, on some of the projects I've been working on and stuff. So yeah, that's fair. That's a good analysis. This is why friends are great. You can just you'd be like, hey, do you notice anything going on or any patterns? And they're like, yeah, dude, obviously you're being an idiot. And thankfully Tyler is very swift to call you an idiot.
I don't think I am.
In the friendly way. He won't do it in front of people. He'll sit you down. He'll grab a pipe, and he's like, I think this is happening.
Yeah,
and you go, no, it's no. Yeah.
I maybe used to be brash, but I don't think I am
Brash,
so
you're not brash
anymore.
You're direct in a healthy way.
Yeah, but it took me a long time to get to that place. I
Yes,
talked to
it did.
several people about that before I talked to you. Is anybody else seeing this? Individually, I wasn't just you were in another room and I'm like, hey, family.
Hey, family.
Y'all think Zach's a piece of crap too?
Oh my gosh, I'm just waiting for someone else to say it.
Of course I didn't do that. But I talked to a few people. I really worked that
Nick,
out.
Of course.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm that forward anymore.
No, yeah, you've softened in a good way. But you're still direct. You're still direct,
Right.
and that's important. I think it's needed, especially, man. I feel like, a lot of people consider Americans pretty forward, and I'm like, I still think that we aren't forward enough a lot of the time.
Yes.
Like, can you please tell me when a booger's hanging in my nose? Like, just tell me. It's fine. It happens. It's not like should I tell him? What will he be defensive and angry? No, I'll be a little embarrassed, sure, but like, you are making me more. You're layering the embarrassment higher.
It is rude
by not
for you to
telling
not
me.
tell somebody.
But we just don't. I don't sometimes. I'm like, just tell her. Tell her the booger is the size of a moose dangling out of her nose. And it's like, no, I just can't sometimes. We need friends who tell you got boogers hanging out of your nose. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, that's correct.
Anyway, that's a little recap.
It's like Jordan Peterson's Clean Your Room.
Yes.
It's like, it's both literal and not literal, but metaphorical.
So stick around to the very end, and we'll go kind of a little bit more into detail on what 2023 holds for Unpatched.
Yes, we're very excited.
It's going to be really good. But let's go ahead and jump into our year in review. So this has been unofficially dubbed the freshest games.
Freshest games.
Because I didn't want to call it the best new games we've played, because it's not games in 2022.
Yeah, we don't play a lot of
us.
new games.
Yeah.
In fact, especially this year, we've played the least amount of new games, I think, in a very long time.
Yeah. We didn't make an effort to, and I'm glad we didn't.
Yeah, there was
better
I'm
this
catching
way.
up on some stuff here at the end of the year, and so far, everything but Sifu has been a dud.
Yes, and we'll talk about Sifu.
Yes,
but
we
this
will.
is freshest games, so this is just the 3 best games that we played this year that were new to us. So we played Metal Gear Solid 5. If you've listened to probably any other episode, you will know. If you just scrub the video, I'm probably talking about Metal Gear Solid 5 at some point. It's my favorite game. That would obviously be number 1, but it's not, because that's not interesting discussion. It's the fresh games.
Yeah.
So let's start with number 3. I will commence. My number 3 game this year is and this and number 2 could be swapped easily.
Okay.
The vanilla Ninja Gaiden 2. So not the Sigma version.
Yeah, so these are not all games we played for the cast, though mine are.
Yeah, so
Because he played way more than I did.
yeah, and the ones that you played that weren't for the cast lately have not been great.
No.
So for me, it's Ninja Gaiden 2, and we're going to talk about it more, but I've been playing a lot of action games. God of War.
A lot.
A lot. God of War has finally pushed me over the edge and going, okay, let me dig into this genre. Like the character action, for lack of a better term, genre. These, high skill, high reward games. And I've played quite a few, but the best by far is Ninja Gaiden 2. It is, I described it on a Reddit post, an adrenaline shot to the nuts. It seriously does not stop. It requires, you need to know, even on normal mode, you kind of have to get this way, especially if you use certain weapons. But as you increase the difficulty, you need to know, where are you invincible? What are the safest options? It feels like playing a fighting game. The AI is so tuned to be so aggressive and to bring out certain behaviors in you. We'll talk about this more when we talk about action games, but it really is impressive. Especially, I love fighting human enemies. The fiends are fine; they're fun, but human enemies are great because you can grab them. You can use your full moveset on them, and you can really bring out the most. It has a de-limbing system, so there's every hit from every weapon has a % chance of de-limbing from 0 to 100% every time that hit lands. So, hit 1 on your sword combo, I think has a 0% chance. And then hit 2 of the light attack might have a 10. And then but hit 3 strong has like an 80% chance to de-limb them. And what limb which limb is taken off depends on what move it was. And sometimes that's even up to chance as well, I believe. So when they're de-limbed, they're obviously incapacitated a little bit, but they now are basically suicidal. They go nuts, and they will kill you immediately. Like, not immediately, but like if they don't have any legs, they crawl towards you, grab your legs, and then suicide bomb themselves to kill you. But any de-limbed enemy can be killed immediately, and you have invincibility frames the whole time you're killing them. The whole kill animation. So it's a balance of, do I leave him so that I can get iframes when this really hard enemy is going to come and swing at me? or do I get rid of him right now to make sure he doesn't do his crazy move or something? It's a great system. My favorite weapon has grabs that if it doesn't immediately kill them, will delimb them immediately, and the whole grab has iframes. So, and if you delimb their leg, you just drop them in front of you, so you can just immediately go for the insta kill. So it's these things. My favorite part of the loop of Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 is when an enemy dies, essence appears, and if you're not holding block, it's the money, right? It just goes to you. The higher your combo is, the more money you get, and if you OT them, that insta-kill with the delimbed person, it's even more bonus money. Well, if you're holding block, it doesn't come near you. You can charge up your ultimate move, which typically takes like 5 seconds, which you never have 5 seconds in Ninja Gaiden.
Okay.
Ever. But if you charge it, it will all the orbs will come at you, towards you very fast, and one orb charges you up to level 1, and there's 2 levels, and then if you get 2 orbs, you'll be at level 2 instantly. And some of those moves, it's basically, a free kill on many enemies on normal mode, even a whole horde of enemies if you're really paying attention, especially at the earlier levels. Now, if you land a jump and just press Y, the strong attack that charges, if you hold it down, charges that ultimate, it will immediately hit you. There's almost no sucking in time of those essence, and
no sucky time,
and you can
Dude,
immediately.
I'm gonna chuck this.
It's so good.
Then like you can scotch you shared.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, just loving the drink.
So you get to do an ult immediately, and on landing moves, like what you can whip out on landing is important because you're always dodging, always jumping. If you're blocking and standing there and blocking, you need to get out ASAP because someone's going to grab you. Someone's going to do a block break. Someone's going to... And if you're standing there blocking, you can bait out grabs and stuff. Like, there's a lot going on.
It sounds very fun. Probably too much for me.
Yeah.
I even had to put God of War Ragnarok on easy. I have...
So yeah, you should play Sigma. Sigma is notoriously much easier.
That's the first one?
Sigma is the remaster for PS3 that was made for PS3
of the first one,
2.
though.
Of Sigma. They did it for 1 and 2.
Yeah, so I should play Sigma 2.
Play Sigma 2. Yeah, you can skip the first one in my opinion, which I know is blasphemy. I know it. The adventure, like this game strips out a lot of the exploration and adventure stuff that I think just doesn't shine in the first game. This game would be my number 1 if it were just this combat. Unfortunately, it carries on the trend of action games having the worst bosses ever. It is extremely boring.
He's played, what have you played, like 8
I've played,
games?
I think 7 action games, and every single one has had crap bosses. I can think of one boss that I'm like, I want to fight him again. And that's the final, every fight with Virgil in Devil May Cry 3.
Okay.
Those are great. You really feel like you're
Can't
using
wait till
your
we play DMC5.
Me neither. Oh, it's going to be so
That game
good.
looks so cool.
I am the storm that is approaching.
Oh, man, it looks so cool.
So I know I went on a little bit long about that. This, in my opinion, is... I don't want to say it until I beat it again, but right now for me, it is my favorite combat system I've played in a single-player video game.
Okay.
It's that good, and it has incredible variety, so many weapons. You can replay that. Replayability is nuts. So, highly recommend.
Highly recommend Ninja Gaiden 2. So Sigma's the ones that are on the remaster,
So if
right?
you're a hardcore, like you love action games, you really want to be challenged, you want to get the most out of this combat system. Unfortunately, you'll have to emulate or buy the Xbox 360 version and play it on an Xbox One or something.
You might be able to play on...
And
yeah,
it's
exactly,
$12,
on Xbox One.
$15 on Xbox 360. Yeah. It's not that much. That's why I'd recommend it. But if you're more like Tyler, you love experiencing the systems, but you don't want to have to push them to their extreme and
I can't take it.
Yeah.
I'm not as good.
I've heard, I haven't played it yet. I'm going to probably boot it up a little bit and test it out. But Sigma strips away a bunch of the enemies. It really makes the game a lot more approachable. The second boss fight now... it's a mini boss fight, which is the first boss reused with an entire horde of ninjas. Now is just the boss reused. Like, you don't have to fight the horde of ninjas as well. The hardest boss in the game, you have to fight the recurring ninja guy that you have to fight with the exploding shuriken-throwing ninjas. Like, 12 of them. It's so hard, but if you know your iframes and you know how to deal with these guys, you can clear them out.
So you played the original or
I played
the
original.
Sigma?
I played original. Okay. So I played Ninja Gaiden 1 Sigma, Played the original Ninja Gaiden 2 on Xbox 3. I literally busted out my Xbox 360. And then I played Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, which is the re-release of that game on Wii U. No, I didn't play it on Wii U, but I played it on the...
So that one is consistent across versions? 3?
3, yeah. Nobody plays Ninja Gaiden 3. Everybody plays Razor's Edge, which is... They re-released Razor's Edge on everything that Ninja Gaiden 3 came out on. They released Razor's Edge on Wii U, and that is what's in the PS4 collection, is Razor's Edge. That game fixed a bunch of the problems that were in the first one, which chief among them is having more than just the sword.
You didn't have other weapons?
Only weapon in all of base Ninja Gaiden 3.
And isn't there a ton of QTEs in that game?
There are. It wants to be God of War 3 so bad.
It
literally has a Chronos ripoff.
When it came out, I remember a lot of people disparaging it.
Yeah, and there are a couple... We can talk about more when we get to the action games discussion, but there's more that I could dig into as to why I think it fails.
I'm sure. I am sure.
But I still like it better than Ninja Gaiden 1. I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize. So number 3 for me is God of War 2018. I finished it this year.
Love that game.
If you go back to our podcast, I mentioned that I played a little bit of it, probably a little less than half, I think, maybe in 2019 or so. And I went back and restarted for our episode earlier this year. I won't go on as much as Zach, since we already talked about it. We've got an episode on it. But the combat I thought was incredible. I didn't need to push that one down to easy, and I was allowed to explore so much.
You built some really cool combos.
Yeah, I loved it. And playing, I was doing hand-to-hand combat almost the entire time, because it's tied in with your shield. You have that entire tree of hand-to-hand and shield combat. So my axe would really just be setting up my entry into an arena, and then from there I would just pummel people with my fists.
Yeah, dude.
It was fun.
Call
and
it
then,
back to knock someone down that's being annoying, and then go back to pummeling.
Yeah. It would be really interesting if there was a move to call it back and then dodge, so it hits somebody behind you.
Oh, that
would be pretty cool.
I love it when like a move in a game.
I wonder if you can. I've never tried it.
I don't think so. I think it just comes back because it's part of the animation. Like he's stuck until he grabs it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, he can move until he grabs it, but it will always come back to his hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that there's a component to fight like action game moves where if it looks cool, I'm gonna use it. Like, I don't care. Again, like, there were many times I should not have been grabbing in Ninja Gaiden 2 that I grabbed in Ninja Gaiden 2, because it's just, you loop around their leg, yank them towards you, and then the scythe is now under their leg as part of the loop, and you cut their leg off to release the loop. It's just so cool.
Dude, those games are vicious. And then, of course, the story. We did talk about Ragnarok and 2018 in comparison. We both prefer the father-son story.
Yes.
We don't find them boring.
Yeah. Mr. Geller.
Yeah. We talk about Jacob Geller a lot here because we both love him very much. And we just think he's wrong.
Yeah. On quite a few things, but he's so eloquent and so brilliant that it's...
I wouldn't say quite a few things.
A handful of things. And I don't care, because he the way he expresses himself and how he writes and presents is unprecedented. Great. I love you.
However, we think you're wrong about father-son stories. I thought God of War 2018 was really special.
Who hurt you?
That was my number 3. It was difficult to choose where I would put that, but became less difficult as I really explored what we have played this year. But that's my number 3.
So let's talk about we'll get back to this list. Let's talk about Pokemon. So we played the 2 big Pokemon releases this year,
which is crazy. 2 mainline Pokemon games. You might not consider Legends a mainline Pokemon game, but it's not a spin-off either.
Major spin-off if it's a spin-off.
Yeah, it might not be either. It's more a mainline than it is a spin-off, though.
Yeah, and the amount of people who played it's not like the amount of people who played Pokemon Ranger.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is great.
Maybe. But we played that, and we played Scarlet. We were going to do an episode on Scarlet. We've talked about it. I was very excited for it to cap the year in 2 Pokemon games. And then this year, I was also going to explore the monster hunting genre, the monster collecting genre, and I just didn't have time. I did a little bit right in the beginning, which I'm going to revisit in our first episode next year, because I forgot my notes. I was rambling. I have some well-formed thoughts.
But you looked cute.
Oh, thanks. On Pokemon clones. Those were the first things I explored, and then I've got a stack of other monster catchers that I'm going to be exploring throughout next year, since I couldn't do it this year. But my new job, the new format, it's going to afford me so much more time. So much more time. So, these two Pokemon games, neither of them were good. Okay.
I enjoyed Arceus much more than Scarlet.
We had a lot of positive things to say about Arceus, but it was still so unbelievably rough.
Yeah.
Around every single edge.
But it looks like an absolute sphere compared to Scarlet and Violet.
Oh my god.
So you all know me. If you don't, go listen to our Prince of Persia 2008 episode.
Oh, yeah.
I played the entire game. I thought this is just the way the game was. It was playing at like 15 FPS for most of the game. And I thought that was just it was just a technical problem. And I played through that whole game, and I was like, and loved it.
And the inputs were not lining up.
Yeah, we're not lining up. So I was missing. I had to preemptively hit buttons to beat the bosses, and it was, I made it work. But I was having a great time. I loved the game. And Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were too much jank for me to handle.
Yeah.
So that should tell you
it's
how
an unmitigated
insanely
disaster.
It's like if you were to serve someone, like you put this beautiful cake in the oven, and you immediately take it out, and you just put it in front of them, and it's like mushy. You can see an egg yolk in there. You're like, dude, I'm not eating this, and they're like, it has Pikachu on it. You're like, fine, I'll eat it. And you sick,
pretty much.
Disgusting
that's
animal.
Pokemon fans, myself included.
You just
so it's terrible. Nintendo should be absolutely embarrassed by it.
I didn't know what they're doing. Why do I can't hear you over the money I'm making?
Pretty much every Pokemon game is the best-selling Pokemon game. So there's no reason for them to change anything. There's no reason for them to give it to someone other than Game Freak. So hear me out. I was nice when we talked about Arceus, and I said I don't think Game Freak is a very good developer. I don't know if this was on the episode or around the episode when you and I were talking, but you're like, I don't think that's totally fair. There are probably people that do a good job there, but just as a whole, the studio doesn't prioritize particular things. I was like, fine, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe that. People at Game Freak, I think, are terrible game designers. They make really trash video games. This is the most successful, the highest grossing entertainment property in history. It needs to be given to someone else. They are a trash game developer.
I mean, do you think
I cannot stand
you don't think it could
Pokemon
be
Scarlet and Violet? And I put like 60 hours into it, okay? I gave it a very fair shake. I did all the nodes on the map. I got the 999 coins to evolve the, what is his name? Goldingo, who's so cool, dude. I love him. I did a lot, okay? I didn't finish it, but I did all the nodes on the map before you go to the 3 different end games. I played the hell out of that game.
Do you not think that it could just be that they are given no time to turn these things out?
No, because I found out that Arceus was from the Sun and Moon team.
Yeah.
And so there are 2 different teams that are making Pokemon games. First of all, why?
Yeah.
So the Sun and Moon team has been working on the technology for Arceus. Then the Sword and Shield team took that technology. So Sword and Shield came out 2 years ago. What's it called? Sun and Moon. The last Sun and Moon game came out 3 years ago. I believe it was 4 years ago, maybe. But anyway, so after Ultra Sun and Moon, this is how the timeline seems to work out in my head. I'm not quite sure. That team started the tech for Arceus. Then when Sun and Moon or Sword and Shield were finished, that team came in, picked up that technology, and started Scarlet and Violet. That's plenty of time. Plenty of time for being, having all the money in the world.
But you don't think? I mean, like, look how much time Breath of the Wild took.
Nope. I did nothing you say will.
Okay.
No, I think they're very bad at their jobs.
Heard.
Every one of them.
It made some bangers.
Yes. A long, long time ago. I think what they need to do is outsource pretty much everything. Outsource someone, just a company, to make 1008 or whatever it is now, Pokemon models, new models. Then outsource somebody else to animate every one of those models for, each different kind of move. And then maybe get, like, why was, what are they called? The guys that do Xenogears. What are they called? Okay.
Oh yeah. Xenoblade.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Xenoblade. I don't remember. Shoot.
Okay. Well, Nintendo has used them
Don't
on a
remember.
few occasions to help out with development on other things, namely Breath of the Wild. Why were they not employed here? Come in and help these people.
Same kind of thing.
Just bring in like an intern from that studio to come tell these people how to make games. It's stupid, dude. I hate it. It's trash. But I also love it. And I hate that that's the case. There's no reason to change. It'll never change. Oh, and then we went back and looked at Sword and Shield. Yeah. We went back and looked at Sword and Shield. I was like, dude, go play just the opening. Go up to the first open area. And it's got its problems. I've said a lot of things about Sword and Shield over the years. But I think visually, aside from, of course, the technical issues of like the pop-in being 2 feet from your face, the art style is probably peak Pokemon. I really, really like it. And then there's a level of pride in the opening of that game. As little of a step up as it is from Sun and Moon, there's a level of pride there that is still just like, okay, they're trying here. This is not a terrible game. None of that's there in Scarlet and Violet. It's just a mess. Everybody involved should be embarrassed with themselves.
Wonderful.
Sorry, I'm so mad about Pokemon. I'm a fucking 30-year-old man just raging about Pokemon. What a loser.
Dude, it's pretty bad. I did not like it. I'm glad for you to go on this Monster Hunter journey, though. Top of my list are a couple of the SMT games. I
will likely not be playing any of those.
I also want you to play Ni no Kuni. That game's awesome.
Yes. So that's the one I started. That I was going to follow up with earlier this year, and I just didn't have time. What I'm going to start with, I'm going to wait to go back to it. What I'm going to start with, though, is very likely Dragon Ball Fusion.
Oh my gosh,
so
that'll be fun.
Silly. I'll break in that new 3DS XL that I got.
What was the best backlog check you got? The best thing you were able to scratch off that backlog this year?
I didn't think about this.
Oh, I want me to give you my answers?
Sure.
So I have a couple. So my favorite share that you shared with me that was on my backlog. So this isn't probably my number one checkoff, but Catherine. Finally playing Catherine was huge. I think it's one of our better episodes.
Yes,
it's
it is.
Very good. And it was just time to play that game, and being able to see what you saw in it was really, really special. Also, Deadly Premonition. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed Deadly Premonition.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up. I was afraid you weren't going to bring it up.
I really liked Deadly Premonition. I have a kind of latent essay I've been working on. It kind of got put in the back burner with this action series I've been working on. But it's, it's such a fun game and just wild. Very special. There's nothing like it. It's not even so bad it's good. It's so good it's good. It's just so good. But my number one, Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it for a long time. I can't believe we haven't played it. I'm glad we waited, though.
That's number one for me as well.
Yeah, Uncharted's just an easy win.
I agree. And I think that's a good time to talk about number two, because Uncharted 4 is my number two freshest game this year. I just fell in love with pretty much every second of that game. I did drop it down to easy. I just wasn't super engaged with the combat. And I wanted to get on with the story. I wanted to see more of the game. So
That was like my number 4 or 5. It's
well,
right
I actually
there.
didn't drop it to easy. I put auto aim on the
Got
lock
it.
on, and that is base. I can't imagine going down to easy mode. That is crazy. The auto lock on is. I still died plenty.
Sure.
You still have to manage your position. All the enemies are still the same, but locking on was very helpful. But anyway, it's one of our more recent episodes. I recommend going back to listen to it. It's one of our favorite episodes. Maybe my favorite. I don't know. It's way up there.
I think it is the game that I would hand someone if they're like, I just want, what kind of spectacle can video games achieve? Like how big, how bombastic, how not big budget, but like what you think of when you think of big budget, right? The just jaw-dropping stuff.
You want some more of this?
This is
If
sure.
there's any more.
If there's any more, a little bit, but you go ahead. That's the game I'd hand them. I'd hand them that. Easy. It's just
it's really, it was something special, and we talked about this. This was a huge part of our discussion for the episode. It was a perfect time to play it. Just at this point in our marriage, and we could see what led Drake to many of the decisions that he made, and we could see those the outcome of those decisions, and then playing with your dad and him sort of sharing his insight.
As a man who's been married for almost 30 years,
Yeah.
and you could see his understanding and the way that, like, he went and shared all those scenes with my mom the second he got home that day.
It's very good.
He's like, we need to watch this right now. And the first thing that caught him off guard is the early scene with when you're seeing Nathan Drake at home for the first time, and he's like, there's just a level of authentic intimacy that even most movies he could think of don't have.
Yeah.
It's not contrived. It's not like trying to make you sympathize. It's just, I believe what is happening right there. I have been what is happening right there. Like there's the tension of the unspoken, and yet there's just the love that's holding it together anyway. Like, and it's not like feeble. It's so strong, and
it's good. It's good.
It's good writing.
That's my
Good
number
writing.
2. It really, any time of day, it could probably be my number 1 as well.
Sure.
But we'll talk about number 1.
Yeah, and the reason it's not in my top 3 is because it's just not that time for me. I'm playing a lot of action games. I'm playing a lot of gameplay heavy things, So, but man,
shame.
Give it a month.
Shame,
It would probably be
dude.
my number 1 or 2. Like that's definitely it. My number 2. It's another game I would hand someone if they wanted to know what video games are capable of in terms of spectacle, and that's Dead Space 2.
Yes. Ooh, man.
I played Dead Space
that
2.
is one of my greatest shares this year.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Dead Space 2.
I forgot about
I
Dead Space
played
2.
it twice and a half. Like I have a save file that I am still going back to and playing. The loop of conserving ammo, delimbing enemies, throwing their limbs back at them is never better. You have to use your brain. You have to be fast in that clunky suit, and you gotta go. And it doesn't stop. 2 of the 3 on this list are adrenaline needles to the nuts. Like, they don't.
It's so good.
Stop.
I'm glad you got to play it.
Yeah,
and I loved revisiting. I think that was my 3rd time through.
Yeah,
I love it, dude.
There's so much there. The reason I have it above Ninja Gaiden 2, even though I think Ninja Gaiden 2 has the best combat system I've ever played, is there is not a dull moment in Dead Space 2.
No.
There's not a problem that I could identify. Like, sure, I could critique it heavily, but like, there's not a moment where I'm going, okay, let's go. Like, never. Not once. I'm like, this is nice. I forgot about, just like a child viewing the stars for the first time.
There are very few games that I can label as perfect, but the 3 that come to mind are all horror or horror adjacent, being Returnal, Dead Space 2, and Resident Evil 2. I think they are just
that's interesting.
Flawless games.
Yeah. Resident Evil 2 is the one I'd pick.
I
without
can't
thinking.
I can't think of things that aren't horror games that aren't just impeccable.
I think I would
every second.
I don't know how controversial this is. I'd put Hades. I think Hades is
Okay,
basically
okay.
flawless. Every mechanic feeds into what the game
Yeah.
is doing.
I'd probably that's right.
There are a
that's
million
good.
different ways to play for a million different players. All the writing is on point. No repeated dialogue in a game that
Yeah,
long.
Hades is a good. Oh wait, and Tetris Effect.
Of course, Tetris Effect. I mean, it's Tetris. You know?
No, it is not Tetris. You know.
No, I mean, but that's the foundation you're building off of. You got a
Yeah.
a pretty good chance. Of being perfect.
Okay, so not all horror. I would agree with Hades, and I, for some reason, forgot about my one true love, Tetris Effect. Oh my god,
Do not spiel.
I must be very careful.
Let's talk about Mass Effect.
Let's.
We played Mass Effect this year, and
I got several things to say, so I might jumble up your list here, actually, about it.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very ready.
Go ahead.
So I think that Mass Effect is a relic of its era.
A relic indeed.
I think that there is not enough there to engage anyone except maybe the most serious fans.
I would disagree with. Wait, are you talking about Mass Effect 1?
Well, Mass Effect, I just mean the series as a whole. I'm not talking fans of Mass Effect. I mean fans of that kind of game. I think there are too many games like that are better recommendations now than Mass Effect is.
Better recommendations now. I'd probably agree with that. I enjoyed 2 and 3 quite a bit.
I
2
liked 'em.
much less than seemingly every other gamer on the planet. But I did find a lot in there to like. But a relic, that's a good way to put it. So there's a couple things. That is my... We're going to talk about letdowns. That is actually my number one letdown.
Wow.
Yeah. But before you said, you mentioned Uncharted 4 a moment ago.
This sake has a little chocolate to it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm picking that up yet.
I put it under my tongue.
So right before, because I mentioned I wasn't thinking about what my my biggest backlog, my favorite backlog checkoff was. I was about to say the Mass Effect series. So that's right under Uncharted 4. Just, wait 10 minutes and I'll probably say the Mass Effect series. But while it's like last year, my favorite checkoff was one of the worst games I played last year, which was Beyond Good and Evil. I'm very happy I played it. I will never play it
I
again.
literally forgot that
I didn't
game
like
existed.
it. Yeah. But I was very happy I finally played it.
Yeah, same.
Same is true here. I'm so happy I got to experience it all. And there's so much to like, but there is also so much that is just old, even for when it came out. I can look at other games coming out at that time that were doing much more than even Mass Effect 3 was doing. Excuse me. And yeah, it was a big letdown. I was expecting so much more, which might not be fair. There is a lot there. I see. It's such a grand experience. And that's difficult to achieve where we look at something like Uncharted 2. It's so much better than Mass Effect 3. Or was it 2 that came out at the same time?
2.
2, that's right. So much better than 2 in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's a much more isolated game.
Sure, but like Uncharted 2, when you play it today, you're like, this feels like playing a modern Naughty Dog game.
It's very good.
Like,
going back to play Mass Effect 2 is rough. Unless you, I put it down on easy because I didn't like it. Not because it was hard. I was just so bored with the combat. All 3 games. 1, nobody should play. I did give it to my brother-in-law, but I told him to knock it on easy. Don't do a single side content. Rush through the main story. Just so you can get that full experience. But I don't see how anyone likes it. I think Mass Effect 1 is not good. It is a not good video game. And then 2, I just don't see why people like it more than 3. 1, it's super segmented. You do this for the character, you do this for the character. There are 12 of those or whatever to do, and then you go into the end game. With 3, however, it feels like the big drama that they're going for. This huge all the intergalactic politics and stuff. It's all coming to a head, and it's all happening in not very segmented ways. Sure, you have the chapter where you wrap up the genophage stuff. You have the chapter where
That's
you
way
wrap
better
up...
than anything in 2 on its own.
Yes, that and then
there's one exception, Legion.
Oh yeah, Legion. Legion's very cool.
Yeah,
but Legion's also amazing in this game.
Sure, I just mean 3, like that quest in 2 is
it's very good. I don't know if I'd say the best in the series because
no, I mean it's the best in 2.
Oh man, I can't believe it happened.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
So major Mass Effect spoilers. I made some wrong decisions. I sided with Legion, who Tali, her race, the Quarians, hate. They're at war with, but I sided with him, and she killed herself. In just such a tragic way, but everything like this, or the whole game is stuff like this. And 3 is just, it's firing on all cylinders all the time. The sort of things that are happening at its core, the gameplay and stuff like that, I don't care about. I turned it down to easy because it wasn't very compelling.
I'm very afraid that's what people will say about The Witcher 3 in 10 years. I'm about to sneeze, sorry. Oh, excuse me.
Well, don't.
I'm very afraid because The Witcher 3 has very simple combat. The one saving grace of The Witcher 3, I think, though, is the alchemy build. The alchemy build's really fun to just load up on.
That's
potions,
how I will play.
Yes.
Did you hear about the stuff that they've added for the?
No, I haven't looked.
Okay, so of course there's all the visual stuff. However, they have taken mods. They've paid modders to put in armor and weapons and monsters that were already there, like fan favorite mods. They've put those in the game, and then they have also taken like a quality of life mods and added them to the game. For example, in Skyrim, you've got the Skyrim UI mod that if you're playing on PC, that don't play it without the Skyrim UI mod. Stuff like that. That just they edit the map, they make it better to just explore on your own, and then this sounds like a game changer. I've not played it, so you tell me. When you're casting a sign, you pull up a menu that slows down time, right? You pull up like a weapon wheel or something?
I did not play with signs at all.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's how it happens.
Okay.
Slows down time, you pull up the wheel, you select your sign, and then you cast it. Now, let's say it was L1 to pull up that menu. Well, you just hold L1 and the little indicator down in the bottom that says what the face buttons do, those change to the 4 assigned signs.
Oh,
so
yes.
It's just you immediately use a sign.
That's the way to do it. Well, I'm doing a signs build when we replay it for the cast eventually.
Okay.
I did alchemy, which is, in my opinion, the way to play The Witcher 3.
It is definitely
the most interesting. Like, it requires the most thought. It's not a lot of thought, but it requires the most thought from the player. And so, dude, when I was fighting the last boss, I was downing potions. My toxicity was like nearly max. But
what happens? Do you die or something?
I forget exactly the punishment, but as you get the alchemy build, toxicity gives you reward, like bonuses as well as you. Like,
oh man!
So it's really good. I
that.
think it's my favorite.
Oh, they also added a new quest line to sort of tie in with the show.
Great.
I don't think that matters very much.
No, there's one moment in that game I'm waiting for you to play. It's a very small moment. I wonder if you're gonna pick up on it at all.
That's not the butcher or the
no.
Baron,
like obviously, yeah, that's amazing. That's where the game is like, okay, let's play this game. Like that's where it really picks up. No, there's just this really good little moments, man.
Okay,
they're really good.
All right.
Anyway,
jumping.
Yes, the jumping. Okay, so Mass Effect sucks. Good, got it.
Doesn't suck, but sorry guys, I don't think it's.
I don't think it holds up.
God that
I don't think it holds up. Again, The Witcher 3 would be the game if someone wanted to play a game like Mass Effect, I'd tell them just play The Witcher 3.
Yeah, but people might also want sci-fi specifically, and there isn't anything like Mass Effect, unfortunately.
I mean, Knights of the Old Republic, and that is more forgivable because it is an old PC game, and so you're going in. And you're like playing an old PC game, and that's fine. You're clicking a bunch and you play the game. But Mass Effect it doesn't have an excuse. It's a modern HD game, you know,
Yeah.
like it's.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier in the year, that sort of just natural forgiveness you start giving games as they get further back.
And they start to meld. It's like, was this PS2, PS3? Like with Deadly Premonition, that's where we talked about it. I was like, is this PS2, PS3? Doesn't matter. It plays like a old PS2 game, so I'm forgiving it like I would any other old PS2 game.
Yeah, and then that just happens, like, as we're now 2 generations away from the PS3 and 360. I've found myself giving those affordances for games that aren't that old. But Mass Effect was, aside from Mass Effect 1, I wasn't really able to do that with. Like, it's like Uncharted 2.
I wonder how
billed as something so much more than the generation.
I'm very curious to see what the generation after the main Mass Effect generation thinks about Mass Effect as they go back and play it. I wonder if they're going to latch on to it and continue the legacy, or if it's going to be this thing that just kind of fades. Like, yeah, that was good, I guess, for the time, and
yeah,
that's it. It'll be interesting.
I suppose,
interesting.
yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of it's going to hinge on this new game too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That
I'm
might-
still interested to play.
Oh, of course.
all the Mass Effect
and
games.
Andromeda. We want to play Andromeda.
Yes, correct.
So absolutely.
Watch that be the best one.
What were your favorite moments from the cast this year, Tyler?
Favorite moments? We're doing all 3.
Yeah. Well, you do 3, I do 3, 2, 2.
Yeah. We're doing all 3. Okay. Favorite moments? Catherine. Not just sharing Catherine with you finally, but that episode. So we recorded that episode at a time when you were really picking up on, and we've alluded to this at the beginning of the cast, sort of really focusing on mythology, on fairy tales, on just magic in the world. I hope you listened to that sermon that I sent you.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. You just started focusing on a lot of that, and finding its importance both in the world and in your life, and hopefully your children's lives. And you brought that to the conversation, and what those things mean specifically for young men. For young adult men.
Well, that's my number 2.
In their 20s.
So
okay,
that was my number 2 choice.
Catherine's your number 2. All right, what's your number 3?
That's number 2. And you're right. I loved, and in fact, I feel like it's going to be a preview for what I'm going to talk about. Wind Waker, the opening of Wind Waker.
It's going to be our first game next year.
Is
very excited.
They get what a legend is. This is the legend of Zelda. Like, they get it.
We'll go ahead and talk about Catherine, so we don't skip back to it. Just talk about your number 2, Catherine.
Yeah. So Catherine is was really special because it was the one I was most looking forward to Tyler sharing with me, from a great game director. I always forget his name, but I mean, lots, Persona 5, like, he's got a great track record. And this feels like definitely his most personal work, his most, like, artistic, quote unquote. I hate using that word, but you know what I'm getting at. His most experimental work.
Yeah, and Atlas is so, known for putting out just weird stuff.
And I'm glad they do.
But this feels different.
Yeah.
It's like on another level for Atlas, I think.
Yeah. And man, the puzzle system's great and all that stuff, but you're right.
I love it. Dude. It's so fun for me.
It was how it characterized modern middle class men. And I think it goes beyond even Japan. I know that's what he was specifically addressing, but I think it goes beyond Japan. This listlessness and this fear, this purgatorial experience that is going on. All of which it goes beyond, this symbolizes this. Sometimes it doesn't symbolize anything. Sometimes it just is. And this is what living like that looks like. This is what this aspect of our experience looks like.
Yeah.
If you were to really, you know how one of my favorite shows right now is Blue Period.
I was going to mention Blue Period.
Yeah.
Because the actor is... go ahead, finish.
Yeah. So in Blue Period, he's experienced a painting for the first time, and like, he's seen paintings, but he looks at this painting, and it has a genuine emotional impact on him, and he can't quantify it. And so he's talking to the artist, and he's like, well, I kind of want to paint, and I don't know what I'd paint though, and they're talking about color and stuff, and she's like, if you see it blue, paint it blue. Like, if you look at the tree and see it blue, paint it blue. It's just this simple way to explain how when an artist approaches something and it becomes this crazy purgatory with a giant floating head and little sheep men and all this stuff. What this guy has done, and the reason it's more like myth than just a simple symbolism, is he's looked deeply into what this is, probably into himself, honestly, and maybe his family and people he knows. Looked really deeply, and that is what he saw, right? He's not just, oh, well, this is kind of symbolized like this. Like, he saw that, and he made it. And it's a team, obviously. I just say he, but the team made that. He saw it blue, and he painted it blue. And I think it's one of the most honest games I've ever played. And I believe that as I revisit... Right now, it's by no means a game-changing game for me that I love more than anything. It's a game I really like and respect, but I have a feeling that as I continue to play it, as I get older, it will only become more and more one of my favorite games.
Awesome. I also like what you realized. I don't know why I didn't realize this during my previous playthroughs, but the character, the friend who had been divorced, he got married really young, who is the actor from Blue Period, the main character in Blue Period. Anyway, how he has not committed adultery. He got a divorce because he was ashamed of himself. Which sort of changes the meaning of what the succubus is and what the dream world is, because he's in the dream world and has not done any of this. Like, for any other reason the game gives you as to why this is happening, he should not be there.
Yeah. He's just punishing himself.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's good stuff.
It's really good.
It's good stuff.
I love it. So I'll do my my number 3 real quick then. It was sharing the Metal Gear Solid 2 ending with you. So I got to sit on the back porch as you watched the end of that game, and the raw sound and fury that just overwhelmed. Like, at the end of that game, it's utter nonsense if you just kind of check out just a tiny bit. You're like, he's just spouting Kojima stuff. But if you start to listen, you're like,
He's one of the most prophetic things I've ever heard in modern times.
Yeah, so being able to share that with you was really
it might
special.
be the most prophetic utterance in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Again, released it was 2002?
Yeah.
Released in 2002, so likely written sometime around 2099, somewhere right around there. It was likely written. And it's talking about now, and is so disturbingly accurate. I still can't get over it. I've watched it like 12 times.
It's so good, man.
We immediately sent it to your dad, and then he was on the call while he watched it.
Yeah.
Talking to us. It's crazy,
It's
dude.
a moment in history.
Yes.
It's very, very profound.
Oh my God, it's incredible, dude.
So just, there's no like explicit profound statement from us on it. It was just experiencing that with you.
Yes.
Number 3.
That's a good one.
Number 2.
I was thinking about moments on the podcast, not so much. That might have made the list. It did not. Number 2 for me, though, is our Pokemon Arceus.
That's my number 1.
That's your number 1. I thought so. I thought it would be my number 1.
It's my favorite moment.
Just hit me a little different.
All of our casts.
It's way up there. So Pokemon, you can go listen to this one episode, or rather this one clip, because it came out at the time where we were still cutting out sort of interesting sound bits.
That's like nostalgia and empathy.
We'll link it. We'll link it in the video. But we talked about. I want you to talk about it. It's your number 1. You talk about it.
Okay, sure.
All the same things. I'm going to say the
it
same
just started
stuff.
with me going, "Have you seen Frozen?" Until they're like, "What?" Because I was trying to justify why Charizard is cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was trying to justify why Charizard is cool, and it kind of started there, but it kind of developed into this idea of a nostalgia, but not as this celebratory, oh, look at, remember this, remember how that is. Just more as this, how do we take this precious experience and share it with our children and share it with the next generation? Is it worth sharing? How do we share it? And then talking about how, as we share these games, we want to wait until they have until they're 10 or 11 to watch Avatar.
And they have, you mentioned practiced empathy.
You said, I don't want them to have just their default empathy. And I said, yeah, it's something like a practiced empathy. And talking about that concept a little bit, and then digging into the why we think one of the biggest turning points in our lives is when we started to value crying, you know, and what that meant, and how you're not a very sympathetic person, but you are a deeply empathetic person, you know. It was a really good conversation.
It's like 12 minutes. Yeah, we'll link it in the description.
Like 25, but yeah.
I think it's short.
We'll see. I listened to it this morning.
Oh, okay. I heard. Yeah, it was a good time. We talked about this in the beginning. We have sort of started to come into our own, and we're more often able to offer conversations like that.
And that's the stuff that we think we bring to the table.
And that's what we just enjoy. That's why we keep doing this. That's why we're moving into our third year now, with 50 subscribers on YouTube.
That's why we're not playing Little Nightmares 2.
Yeah. We just don't care about the views very much anymore, which I did in the beginning. I mean, you see the set here. We had never done anything, and then we dropped $5,000 on the at a time where I really couldn't afford it. I probably shouldn't have. But I wanted it to be something successful. And now it's one of the best times of my week.
It has value inherently.
Yeah. So
it makes us think about games intentionally, which is, I would argue everyone should develop the habit of participating in even passive art intentionally. Even TV and movies. Be intentional about it, and you will be rewarded for your time. It'll be a little more exhausting, take a little more out of you.
It does.
But journal, think, chew, let it change you.
And I've noticed that in myself. There was, I've noticed it quite a few times in the past year where I'm like, oh, that hits a little different. 8 or 9 months ago, I probably would have had no problem with that, but now there's a sour taste in my mouth. One of the first times I noticed that is I watched a trailer for a maybe it's an Apple TV show. I don't know. It has Loki in it. I forget his name. But he is a preacher, like I think it's set in America, but it's maybe the 1800s or something. I don't know. He's a preacher, and he, being a preacher, sort of opens his home to everybody in need. He has seemingly a loving relationship, but I believe there are 2 affairs that happen in the show. One is the preacher has an affair, and then there is a lesbian that comes into play and has an affair with his wife. I think that part's in there. I could be distorting or conflating 2 different things, but the trailers that I watched seem to celebrate those 2 things and the breaking of the marriage for the sake of the happiness of the 2 people. And they have a family. They have a community that they are leaders of. And just this sort of celebration of it. Again, last year I would have been like, oh, that's fun. I like the
tension.
Yeah, that's interesting tension. But now I'm like, I don't appreciate the celebration of that.
Yeah, it's very modern, right?
It is.
We tend to value, whatever makes you happy as the highest good, as the best thing. And it's like, nobody actually truly believes that, right? There are certain things that people do that would make them happy that are atrocious or should never happen, right? So like, where's the line? We all draw a line. And where's that line drawn? And most of us would say, well, when it's not in the interest of the community, right? Like murdering people. If murdering makes you happy, it's something. Well, what happens in that show, even if that is truly a celebrated thing in the show, based on
that's what the trailers look like.
Yeah, just based on the trailer. Let's say it is. If that's celebrated, that would be even an overstep of that moral. Right, because it is breaking down the health of the community to
and the
do
family.
so, and the family on a smaller scale. So, yeah, it's odd that I don't know. It's a very paradoxical way of thinking, in my opinion.
There's things like that just they keep hitting me because I have started to engage with as much media as, or rather, with the media I consume. I try to engage with as much of it as possible. On that level. Sure. Sometimes I like to just disconnect. Sometimes I like to just, I don't need to find the meaning in Manny. I just want to watch Manny, dude.
Sure.
It's a good movie. And sometimes I check out. but very often too. Very often I try not to. What were we just talking about? Pokemon is my number 2, your number 1.
Yeah. So what's your number 1?
My number 1 is, we've already talked about it a little bit, Uncharted. It's a pretty close, Pokemon's a pretty close second. But I was talking to Katie just last night. I go to bed way later than my wife does every night.
Than any human.
Most people, yes. I hate that I keep doing it. I stayed up till 2:30 last night.
Yeah, I saw your text.
Oh, you text? I text you.
Yeah, like it was at like 1 or something.
Oh, well.
Wait, I texted you. What was I sending? Probably some dark depth of YouTube video.
Probably dark depths of my soul at 2:30 a.m., dude.
Nothing good happens after midnight.
Correct. Like, what was it? Not Loop Hero. That Loot River, that was not good. That happened after midnight.
I'm sorry.
It was not good. Anyhow, I was just talking to Katie last night. How lately I've just been loving her a lot more. And she said, yeah, it's because you don't have that shit job anymore.
Yeah, sure.
And I think she's right. And Uncharted hit right around that time that I lost my previous job. And, or maybe just after. I'm not quite sure. But it was so perfect, the timing there. And we've already talked about it to death, both on the episode, a little bit here. It was just... it's the best thing I've played this year, dude.
Yeah. It's
also my number 1. So I just... no, it's not. It's my number 2. That's right. Number 2. I loved it. I loved every second of it. So... that was that conversation that came out of that. And then actually later in the conversation as well, when we were talking a little bit about people not seeing magic and thinking that science discredits magic.
Yeah.
That conversation came from Lost Legacy. I just appreciate all that. I think it was a good episode. It's in our top tier.
I would recommend
of episodes.
Would recommend.
Yeah. So that's my number 1 moment.
That's good stuff.
Number 2, we didn't get to your number 2.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we got all mine. Metal Gear Solid 2, Catherine, and Pokemon.
Cool beans.
Coolest of beans.
Cool beans.
So, let's talk about action games a little bit.
Okay.
Or I will talk about action games a little bit.
A little bit.
So
we are not making this a full episode for action games.
I would love
However, take it away.
So because of God of War Ragnarok, I finally realized, okay, this is still a pretty light action system, and I love them. I loved playing action JRPGs. You know, I loved Kingdom Hearts. I thought Final Fantasy VII Remake was awesome. I loved playing
that was a good game.
The old God of War games as well. I was like, I think it's time to break the cherry. Like, let's make this happen. And so I played through Devil May Cry 1, Devil May Cry 3, Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3. I bought... played
Devil May Cry 2, right?
I played Devil May Cry 2. I did not
finish. Oh, that was the really bad one, right?
It's really bad.
Okay.
They are correct. That game is bad. I played through Sifu. I bought...
Sifu.
All the other Devil May Cry games. I bought all the Team Ninja games. I bought, the No More Heroes 3, because I have the other ones already. I bought... the whole gamut, basically. I'm going to finish up... Bayonetta, I have it all.
Yeah, go ahead and play Bayonetta. I want to play Bayonetta 2 with you, and of course...
I want to revisit Rising Revengeance Day 2 now that I have now that I know how action games are supposed to be played. Because I kind of brute forced Rising. Now that I'm looking back, I go, oh, I was playing this game wrong. Like, I get it now. I get how...
What were you doing wrong?
I was just playing it like God of War, like use the best moves, knock them back, like try to... I brute forced a lot of the encounters. None of them were stylish. I was just playing the game to beat it. No. Gotta play the game to look great. Unless you're playing Ninja Gaiden, in which case you just need to live. Survive.
Okay.
I think the way that the community phrases to any newcomer to Ninja Gaiden 2, the goal is not to not take damage. The goal is to die slower than your enemies.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty cool. But obviously my favorite from that so far has been Ninja Gaiden 2, but Devil May Cry 1 is an unprecedented bombshell of a game the more that I look into it. The amount of impact, it feels like it was the culmination of all the gaps between the arcade games and the PS2. It was just as if they were just making 3D melee action games this whole time, and then this is just one of those games. No, but it came out of the arcades straight to the PS2. This game changed everything. God of War came out of it. Everything came out of this game. It is clunky. It is hard to play. It has its moments, and like all action games, it has terrible bosses. But
yeah, that's such a weird trend.
yeah, it's like don't
Such an
even
unfortunate trend.
because they feel the need to have these big spectacle bosses that have to block more than enemies and not be able to just be comboed to death like everyone else. But the game is built around comboing. Like that's what the game is about. So just if you can't make a boss, just don't make one. Anyway, so Devil May Cry 1 was great. I would highly recommend it to anyone just to play it. Get it this is a piece of gaming history that I would put near Super Mario 64 the more that I think about it. Okay. Not at Super Mario 64, but near it. I think it's that level of important. So it's amazing. I
gotta put it in the canon then.
Gotta put it in the canon. I will. And then Devil May Cry 3 is a much better game. If you're only going to play one Devil May Cry, you should probably play 5. But if you want to play an older one, I can't recommend 3 enough. It's very fun. The bosses are typically cheesable if you don't want to deal with them. And Virgil's actually a very good boss fight. I'd argue the only really good boss fight in any of the games I played is fighting Virgil in Devil May Cry 3. The variety of the styles and the weapons you get a guitar that shoots bats out of it.
That's so cool.
It's
That's crazy,
nuts. Dude, the cutscenes are so over the top. It's a very fun game.
I've seen several of them.
Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3 all are worth playing. I would recommend 2 over the others. 3, so you don't have this ultimate essence charging thing anymore. They took that out, and enemies will sometimes initiate attacks that are usually grabs. They go through block that have red glowing orbs around their hands or whatever they're about to hit you with. And if you hit the strong attack button toward them, you will do this insta-kill on them. This blood, it's called blood on steel or blade on steel or something like that. And the problem is, if I ever got in a tight spot, I would just run away and bait those attacks out because it lets you kill like 4 or 5 enemies instantly if you land one. Which is... The other games encourage aggression. Like, so 1 is pretty actually passive, but you're playing defensively, but you have to make the opening and you have to squeeze in. You're not waiting for the enemy to do a certain attack. You're waiting for the right position, the right time, and the right, 2 is none of that. If you wait, you die. And so it's all about aggression. And 3, none of that's happening. You have to move around. You have to have good positioning, but if you get stuck, just bait it out and hit it, and there you go. You're good to go. So I do think it fails on that front. I do still like it more personally than Ninja Gaiden 1 because it is just a sequence of combat rooms, which is what those games should be.
And QTEs.
And yes, it is very much a God of War 3 specifically ripoff.
Can't wait for Asura's Wrath, though, because it doesn't try to be anything else. It is a movie.
Yeah, it looks great, though. Looks fantastic. So, and then Sifu. Which we'll talk about a little more in this next topic, but it's I have a very, very deep respect for what Sifu is doing, and I enjoyed it a lot. I'm on my second run through the game right now, trying to get the good ending, and it's definitely doesn't have the depth that either of those other 2 games have, but it's still far deeper than even the new God of Wars or any of the God of Wars or anything. It has more depth than those, for sure. So I think that there's a lot of good there. The next game I'm going to jump into, if Devil May Cry 4 doesn't show up, I bought it from Japan because they only have a physical copy from Japan. But it's I unfortunately bought one.
Should have bought 2
from Japan.
How much were they?
Dude, it's like $19, $18.
Should have had you pick me one up.
They're cheap. But shipping from Japan, so it's taking a while. So if that's not here yet, I'm probably going to jump into another Team Ninja game since I'm really enjoying Ninja Gaiden. Probably going to jump into Stranger of Paradise. Or I don't have Neo 2.
I want you to play Stranger of Paradise.
I don't have Neo 2 right now. I don't want to play Neo 1 again. As much as I love have you played Neo 1?
No.
Dude,
I played the demo like 9 times.
The ending is one of the weirdest things just look up the end of that game. It is wild. It's very bizarre. So I'm going to play some Teen Ninja games. I'm putting off the Platinum experience for a little while because that's going to be the nail in the coffin. I'm going to go down that rabbit hole so hard. I have so many Platinum games.
I wouldn't mind. How soon are you going to play Neo?
I'm probably going to... Devil May Cry 4 will probably be here by the time I'm done with Stranger. Okay. So I'll probably be back on Devil May Cry.
Let me know, and if
so
I have
Devil May Cry
opening.
4, DMC, I'm not gonna play 5. That is a cast episode.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate because that's the one I'm looking at. That one will probably trump Ninja Gaiden 2 for me. We'll see.
Looks incredible, dude.
But
play
then,
DMC though. There seems to be a lot of interesting moments.
Yeah,
One of the bosses in there,
and
so you go into this like cyberspace, and you fight this giant, glowing digital
newscaster.
code head of very obviously Bill O'Reilly from Fox News.
It's incredible. Isn't that Team Ninja DMC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe
That
that'd be a
sounds
good bridge. So I'll just do
Sure.
Stranger Paradise to DMC 4. So here's the thing. I've heard DMC 4 until 5 had the best combat in Devil May Cry.
Okay.
But a bunch of other crap. And based on how much I love Ninja Gaiden 2, despite all the other crap, I think I'm in. Let's do this.
All right.
Anyway, that's action games. I will be probably talking about that a little more as I keep
let me
playing
know
them.
when you play Neo 2. I'll see if maybe I can fit it in there.
I don't have it yet. Don't own it yet. I want to buy the PS5 collection.
Did you buy Devil May Cry 4 from Amazon or eBay?
eBay.
Have you ever purchased Amazon items from Japan?
Once.
It's like 5 days.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Unprecedented. I got Okami from Amazon.
Yeah.
The Switch edition. So that's action games. Let's talk about the game of the year discussion. So obviously we didn't play a lot of 2022 games.
Yeah, very few.
And so we didn't want to do a full game of the year episode. Best of this, best of that. We didn't want to do that. We don't want to do that anyway usually. But let's talk about the big heavy hitters. For us, we would probably both pick Ragnarok or like near 1 or 2.
It's my number one.
It's my number 1 as well. I'd pick Ragnarok. I know why Elden Ring was picked at the Game Awards because it was more original than Ragnarok. Ragnarok was doing a lot of what the previous one was doing, and the previous one won. So I get it. But even so, for those who don't know, I have some pretty big complaints about Elden Ring as a single player experience. There's a great video. We'll have to remember to link in the description. That it's a 2-hour breakdown of the major bosses in Elden Ring, showing the trend of boss design in FromSoft games, resulting in Elden Ring. Like what is happening in Elden Ring? What design philosophies have changed? What is going on under the hood that is changing the way that these bosses play out? And the difficulty is starting to become arbitrary instead of an equalizer, instead of something that's achievable, something that's fair, something difficult but fair. Fair is starting to ebb away, starting to become more intentionally tricksy, intentionally difficult to grapple with and memorize, just more of a pain. And that's how I felt by the end of the game. I was done with Elden Ring by the time I was done with Elden Ring. I was like, I don't want to play this anymore.
Well, I didn't finish Elden Ring.
I put 70 hours into it.
No, I couldn't. Again, just way too busy this year. It was just a terrible year for me all around. Elden Ring's my number 3 though. I did enjoy what I played.
And the
I played
beginning
about
of Elden Ring is an
30
absolute
hours.
masterpiece. The whole
I played
first
the first
area,
3 areas, I think.
Yeah, the whole first area
4
alone. Maybe. I'd say the first 2, mostly the second area, but that first area all the way through Godric the Grafted. Lowly tarnished, thou'rt and fit even to graft. He's amazing.
He's really cool.
I love him. I love that he's also like the one none of the other lords talk about. He's that grafted guy. Like, he's weird. But yeah,
he's pretty cool.
I love how he grafts an arm onto himself in the middle of the fight. Like, a dragon head is an arm. It's just a great fight, great spectacle. The music is my favorite track in the whole game.
Now listen, Clawitzer did it first.
Clawitzer did do it first. And he may have
probably my new favorite Pokemon. Clawitzer into Clawitzer. He's amazing.
And so I do think Elden Ring, I get why it won. I get why so many people have it as their favorite game of the year. My money says it's not going to be the one remembered as fondly.
I don't know, dude. A lot of suckers out there.
Dude, I mean, look at Mass Effect 2. I don't think it's that egregious, but I think that when people revisit FromSoft's Souls games, the ones that are going to be remembered are Dark Souls 1, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. That's going to be there, because right now the Trinity seems
look at Mass Effect 2, but Mass Effect 2 is the one that everybody, it's almost unanimous. Mass Effect 2 is one of the best games ever made.
We'll see. We'll see. I do think that there's a precedent there for the way this game will be remembered. Again, it's not a bad game. It's an absolute masterclass of game design. It just has these problems that the other games they've made don't. There is an argument to be made for some of their games being perfect. It's some of the most innovative, creative, and consistently good design that exists. Sekiro is still a top 5 game for me. I think it's an absolute...
Can't wait to play it.
Sifu has so much Sekiro in it. The way the posture and parry system works are Sekiro. Just a little bit more tight on the pairing because I don't want you to play it like Sekiro so much. But still, that game matters. It's so good. And it's one of those games like Breath of the Wild where it's going to be a hard one to replicate, to imitate, because it requires such precision to design. So yeah, that's my feelings on FromSoft. My suspicion is if they keep doing Souls-esque things, it will continue in a downward trend. I think we've seen the peak of Souls.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's time to maybe...
It's 11 years, going to be 12 next year.
I think it's time to
move on.
I'm glad they're doing...
Armored Core 6. Dude, let's do it. I hope it's wild. I hope it's just a totally new thing. It's going to be cool. So yeah, time to move on from Soft. Tunic was one of my favorite games this year. I'd probably put Tunic at number 2 or 3. 2 and 3 are interchangeable. So my number 1 this year is God of War Ragnarok.
Mine too.
But I would interchange both Sifu and Tunic. Tunic is by far the more clean experience.
For your number 2.
Yeah, so it's 2 or 3. It's Tunic or Sifu, but Tunic is by far the cleaner experience. It does a couple things that remind me of The Witness, like the way that game is designed and the way it makes you...
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Dude,
yeah.
What are you saying right now? You are making me want to play it so bad now.
Tunic is very
what?
good. Tunic is...
It's like The Witness?
Yeah, Tunic...
Oh, man. I love The Witness.
And the whole manual concept is...
I wish there was a physical copy for Witness.
Yeah, I wish there was a physical copy of the manual you could get only after you beat the game, because it spoils the whole game. But just the manual is such a unique piece of design. There's nothing like it. It plays great. I think it's a little hard for what it is. I think that's just part of the trend of these kinds of games right now. And they made their previous game, was their previous games have all been a little difficult.
What game?
The not the I don't know who the developer I don't know who led the development, but Fiji.
Oh no, they're publishing it. This is one guy. This is like Stardew Valley. One guy.
I'm talking about the publishing company. They tend to publish games that require some they're challenging. They tend to publish challenging games. Not always, but
sometimes they do something like Night in the Woods.
But that's not a combat game. But like anything that has any sort of combat.
Some of the stuff is pretty challenging.
It's pretty challenging, so that's probably just part of what they publish. But it's one dude, and honestly, it's an achievement. It should have gotten Stray got nominated for Game of the Year. This game blows it.
Now, I did not play Stray. You watched it with Amanda,
It's fun. Right? It's well designed. I do not hold anything against the developers. They set out to do something.
And they did it.
They did it well.
But Game of the Year, bro.
But Game of the Year especially over something like Tunic, which has not one, but 3 or 4 completely original, innovative mechanics and ideas. I think Tunic's a very special game, and I'm very upset it's not getting more recognition.
I'll play it one day. I'll play it in conjunction with what's the one with the crow? Death's Door. Yeah.
Both great. I prefer Tunic, but they're both great. Biggest letdowns, Tyler.
Biggest letdown. Oh wait, my number 2.
Oh yeah.
So my number 3 being Elden Ring. We talked about number 2. It's Kirby, guys.
Oh yeah.
Kirby, not an open world Kirby game. Not even a 3D platformer. You're wrong. Okay. It is happening in a 3D space. But it is so...
There is a jump button.
2D platformer adjacent.
I love... There's a guy who says, it's a Dark Souls clone if there's a dodge button. He's joking, but he's like, if there's a dodge button, it's a Dark Souls. Can you break pots by dodging into them? Anyway.
It's not a 3D platformer. I will reject that. Go play some 3D platformers, and you'll see the difference. It's very linear. I don't care about that though. It is so unabashedly fun. Nearly every hat, I just had so much fun with. There's one where you put a pencil sharpener on your head with this giant pencil, and you jump in the air, and then you drill. So now there's like these pencil threads coming behind you, and then you drill into the ground, and you just like circle around an enemy, and you can make a little earthquake happen. There's a giant katamari ball that you just eat things up with, or they stick to you. And then when you jump out of it, you'll throw all the items in the direction that you're jumping. There's a giant tornado that basically lets you fly across any gap in the game. There is, let's see, what was my favorite? Oh, each of the swords actually are relevant. I didn't know that there were like combos and things you can do with each of the swords. Even Meta Knight sword, you get Meta Knight sword later. There's the, I don't know, it's been a minute since I've played, but the drill, the katamari ball, and the tornado were probably my favorite. Dude, listen to me. The end of this game is some of the most wild stuff I have played in a very, very long time. Okay, it's a Kirby game. It's cute. However, it's also... Sure. It's the only one I've played, though. By the end of the game, you are fighting the final boss with literally the Spear of Longinus from... what's the show?
Neon Genesis.
Neon Genesis. You're fighting this angelic being who is tearing up the ground. Like, buildings are floating... Cars, just huge chunks of the earth are just floating around, and you're fighting on this platform. This angel with the Spear of Longinus. Okay, it's destroying the world, and it, after you beat its first form, it flies off in the distance and starts a spirit bomb, a literal spirit bomb where it's eating the energy of what's left of the world and making a spirit bomb. And things are flying and crashing. And an actual Optimus Prime truck falls in front of Kirby, who's like, okay, I'll eat that. And you eat the truck! You eat the truck! And then you're driving on all these things. You're jumping off rocks. You're driving, and the dude throws the spirit bomb at you. And then you Optimus Prime ram into the spirit bomb and push him into some portal that is opened up behind him. It's amazing. And this comes before the angelic being has formed. You go into a lab, and this like grotesque David Cronenberg gelatinous flesh thing is chasing you through hallways.
Just carrying.
Yes! It's amazing, dude! Play Kirby. It's so good. It was so much fun.
And it didn't get any love at Game of the Year.
No. Maybe Best Family Game did it?
I don't know.
It also came at a very right time, like Uncharted 4. I needed something so fun, and I didn't 100% that game, but it is one of the few games that I finished almost 100%. I think I have 3 levels left. So there's some end game stuff. There's an extra world that opens up, and each of the levels, maybe there's 6 or 7 levels in this world. But each level is an amalgamation of all of the levels from each world of the previous one. So you have all of the ice levels crammed together for the ice level in this endgame place. I did 3 of those, I think. So almost 100%. I even did the fishing mini games. It's good. All right, Kirby's fun. It wasn't God of War though. I actually was debating on making it my number 1, but I couldn't in good conscience. But it's good, dude.
Maybe one day.
That's all. Those are our favorite games from 2022.
What about the biggest letdown?
I already talked about my number 1 was Mass Effect. For similar reasons to Beyond Good and Evil. I'm very happy I played it. I can talk intelligently about it. I finished all of them. We already talked about it. Those reasons. So simultaneously, very happy I played it, and a big letdown. I was number 3 for
another
you,
one. I don't have 3. I have 2.
Oh, okay.
I didn't put Mass Effect. I guess I could. I I guess I just wasn't invested as much. I don't know.
Yeah, you didn't finish it. You didn't finish 3, right?
Yeah, I didn't finish 3. I have Evil Within 2 as one of mine. It's not even a bad game.
That would be number 4 for me.
It's not a bad game. It's just
it sells itself as so much more
compared to what potential the first game laid out. It took the generic things and doubled down on those instead of the unique things and doubling down on those, which is a shame because the first one it has its problems, but it's interesting.
It's a unique game. It's very good.
It's so worth playing.
And we talked about this in the episode. That has been the trajectory for Tango Works from Evil Within 1 to 2 to now Ghostwire Tokyo.
Is even more generic.
Yeah, very generic. Cool. It's really sharp.
Great.
But I don't know. And they're not bad games. None of them are bad games. Evil Within 2 might be the best of the 3, just in terms of the gameplay, the loop, and everything. But they get less and less unique as they go. And I wonder if maybe they don't want to do that because it's a very disgusting game. What is it? Evil Within 1. Maybe they just
it's a hard
don't want to do that again.
That's fair.
So I wonder if that's the very obvious trajectory that they have taken.
I think the next one is on both of our list, Callisto Protocol.
Yes.
We're both looking forward to that. We didn't play it in its defense, so we can't speak very intelligently about it. But based on what we've heard, this game was a big letdown, it seems.
Yeah, no way I'm paying $70 for it.
Yeah, we'll play it eventually.
I'll get it when it's $20. I'll happily put in the 6 hours, even if I might not like it. I was hoping for another...
Have an opinion.
Yeah, I was hoping to have another Dead Space on our hands, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, looks like you'll have to wait to have another Dead Space on our hands in January.
Correct. Yes, dude.
So yeah, that's all the big letdowns really for me. I wasn't... nothing else really held that much hope for me. But let's go ahead. What's your freshest game, Tyler?
Freshest game. Where are we here? Metal Gear Solid 5.
That's I'm glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that.
Not a perfect game.
No, by far.
I wouldn't put it on that short list that we were talking about earlier.
Lots.
However, best game ever made?
It's my opinion.
I wouldn't dispute it.
Yeah. It'd be the top 5 best games ever.
I would say top 5, yeah.
Yeah.
I might even put it in top 3.
I mean, just the level of play and freedom of play that it provides, while not being totally freeform like something like Dwarf Fortress, is unprecedented.
Yes,
truly.
Correct.
And
then of course just the demo, that one level in Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
As we were talking about it yesterday, quite possibly the best level ever created.
Yeah. It truly is. Playing Metal Gear again this year for me has only solidified for me the weight that this series has, that it is not something that is ever going to go away. It is going to be a staple, a fairly niche one. It's not going to be, your mom's not going to be able to say, is that Solid Snake? That's not going to be the case. It is going to be for people who play video games, who it'll be on the fringe for a while, and maybe one day they'll jump in and play it. Every single one of those games has value, and it delivers that value to the player even today. It's very hard to find another series that long that can say that. Mm-hmm. But 5 is the culmination of the best parts of those games, where there's a little bit of freedom in 2, and you start to see, okay, the box kind of works like this, and I can, be a little...
I should have used the box. I probably would have had a
much easier time. The box saves so much. Dude, the box is the best. And then 3, there's some freedom here. You can kill bosses in weird ways. There's the CQC starting to come together.
The Shadow Moses training.
Yeah, right in. And then 4, this is a competent, deep stealth system with interesting ways to dispatch and deal with enemies, multiple ways to play through the game. And 5 just goes, here you go. Everything works within this systemic world and environment we've created for you to be able to come up with things we could never have. We have given you the tools. Like, it's so much harder to make a game where you don't hand a player a fully formed mechanic, where you hand them the bones and let them build systems out of it.
It's like, what's his name? The guy that made System Shock. I forget. No, Deus Ex.
Not Ken Levine.
It's not Ken Levine.
Warren Spector.
Correct. Warren Spector. He, for several years, had a class at UT, a game design class. And I was listening to an interview maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And, that game's 25 years old now, the original Deus Ex, something like that. And they were playing it in his class, and he's like, what are you doing right now? I didn't even know that was possible. I made this. I've never seen it. I couldn't imagine it. But he created a space for that to happen.
Yeah.
And that's true of Metal Gear Solid. Like, I'm sure it was never in any designer's mind, any designer on that game, that you would put a bunch of decoys in a circle and then stand in one blank spot and let the dude just pop decoys.
It's incredible. And there's, for me too, there's something to the depth of even the most simple mechanics. Like, if you were to play that game with just a water pistol, you would not be bored. Like, first of all, the water pistol can do weird stuff like disable equipment, and like, it's very bizarre what the water pistol can do. It's amazing. Put out fires. It's great. But the depth of just the engagement with the enemy and making on-the-fly decisions on which way to dispatch them, sleep, knockout, like all these different things that you can do. Even that, going through every level, quote-unquote, like that, is incredibly deep. Like, I mean, any of the action games I'm playing, this is on par with that level of depth going on here, even without throwing in all the crazy items and guns and fun stuff you can do. Quiet and D-Dog, and what a game!
Still prefer D-Dog to Quiet.
I have playing with Quiet more.
And I like putting him to sleep when he's in your way.
Oh yeah, he's great. I like
you'll wake up quick though.
I love when you throw a grenade and Quiet shoots it and it like knocks it, like puts it, positions it for you. Yeah, it's really good.
It's pretty cool.
It's lots of cool stuff you can do in this game. So yeah, that's a great choice. If I had not played it before, it would have been mine for sure. But instead, my number one is a very, very special game to me, Rain World.
Ah, yes.
This game took me over a year to beat because it is so discouraging. And not in a way like Dark Souls where it's like, I'm going to conquer this. It's like, there's no point. Like, there's no point in continuing. Like, I'm not making, like, there's no progress happening. Like, there's no direction. Why am I playing this game? Like, that kind of level of disheartening. But you always go back. It draws you back in, and not in this sick, like, oh, I hate myself. In this, there's something beautiful.
It's like Darkwood. Here. What you have said, I didn't play it. It's like everything that I keep preaching about with Darkwood.
Yeah.
If you can weather that,
and there's the same naturalization
you'll never play a game like
that
it.
Happens to you with it, where you start to understand its language. So I wrote. This is not gonna take long. Something I wrote earlier this year. I said, it's foreign at first, something you can't speak or decipher, but Rain World stands a fair distance away and believes you can follow. When you stumble into a new environment and encounter a massive, gangly bird of prey or bizarre contraptions, you're at a loss. It's like seeing Stonehenge in person. You can sense a profound meaning despite having no idea how to decode it. Cave paintings by a foreign and ambivalent species, but somehow they make sense. Rainworld communicates these ideas best. The wordless wonders that defy the old gods. Hope, that inexplicable part of us that defies instinct. Curiosity, a pragmatist's nightmare that leads to innovation and life. And of course the sublime, an intermingling of fear and beauty that some would call wonder. Fear is firsthand in Rainworld, your very first lesson, but the beauty you bring on your own. The designers knew that as human beings we would bring this to the table. They provide the fear, and we bring all these other inexplicable pieces. Rainworld is a joint commission, the shared work of the creators and the player. Separate, it is meaningless survival, but together, it is sublime. They are able to draw out of you all the best parts of yourself in a world where you should not be curious. You should not be... You are going to die no matter what you do. What are you doing? You're going to lose all this progress. Why would you go and check what's on the other screen when you know what's on that screen? and you make the best progress going to the next screen that you don't know where it is, or you die hopelessly. Like, there's just so much here that it puts on you. And not like, here's the burden of trying to figure this out. It's like, you will only make it through this if you have the character to make it through this. If you're the kind of person that would weather this, and find what this game is preaching. And it's so gorgeous. There is no game like it. This is an experience I would recommend on the level of Outer Wilds in terms of raw uniqueness, raw emotional responsiveness.
What else would we put up there? We should talk about this sometime.
It's hard to define what Outer Wilds is.
Rain World, Darkwood. I bet there's a small collection.
But it's the kind of emotional experience that you get out of playing those games. That it's not just because they're emotional. It's a very unique thing that draws those things out of you. It's very powerful. So yeah, Rain World is by far my freshest game. By a significant margin. I really, truly think that it's a special game. That is not for everybody. Not everybody's going to be able to play and experience and love that game. It's just
I want to play it so bad.
It
looks great.
It's amazing.
I've always wanted to play it.
Oh, there's so much there. It's so good. Anyway, let's just kind of wrap up going into the details of what 2023 is going to look like, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah. So we are moving to a 3-week gap between episodes. That's gonna give us fewer episodes in a year. That's going to give us much more time to play games that we want to play. Not all games are really going to take up that 3 weeks, and we're not going to have to cram to finish things in the 2 weeks. So we'll be able to play more games throughout the year, just sort of outside the cast, which means we'll have a segment of the cast. There will be distinct segments. A segment of the cast just talking about what we're playing. If he's playing DMC from Team Ninja. Is it Team Ninja?
I'm pretty
Ninja
sure.
Theory.
I think it's Team Ninja.
Okay.
Ninja Theory
when he plays DMC, talk about that for a bit. They won't be
Ninja
full
Theory
discussions.
Is, Senuous.
That's right. They won't be a full game discussion like the typical episodes are, but a brief rundown like he did for the combat system in Ninja Gaiden 2. So we'll have a segment for that. That's where I'll talk about my Pokemon games. I'm gonna be I've got an episode or a week that I'm gonna set aside rather to play. I think I have 9 match 3 games on the DS. So I'm going to find the best match 3 games. Just silly stuff like that I plan to do while he's doing action. I'm going to be playing a lot of first-person adventure games. A lot of them are horror, but there are plenty that are not. Things like The Sojourn, The Wine. I'll play Obscure by... not Obscure, but Abduction by the Mist folks. Things like that. I'm a fan of those. A lot of them are B games, but I don't mind. Last year we did Maid of Sker. I really like that, probably more than most. I recognize it's not great, but I like those B games. So I have a quickly growing collection of first-person adventures. So anyway, that'll be one of the segments. With this 3 weeks, we're going to make beer a bigger part of the episode. We live in Austin, a great home for breweries. Some very renowned breweries. Excuse me. So we'll still open each episode talking about the beer, but we're going to take those 3 weeks to go visit a brewery for each episode. We'll basically do a review for the whole space, what it's like, what sort of food they offer, and we'll bring 2 or 3 beers back to have on the podcast to share during the episode rather than just one. We'll have a few, and we might interject and introduce a new one, but all from that brewery that we visited for that particular episode. We'll of course have the game that'll be at the back end of the episode, and then somewhere in there we'd also like to have just topics to talk about.
A feature.
Yeah, a little feature. We will likely
Sometimes
revisit.
they'll be a little more robust. Sometimes maybe if we're synced up on the games that we're playing outside of the cast, like, or if we intentionally go, hey, let's do this real quick, we can do a more rich feature where we're playing some games. But sometimes it'll just be topics, things that we can talk about without having to play something. Like, just ideas that aren't coming up naturally elsewhere.
Like why bosses suck in action games.
Yeah. I actually on our little bullet point list for what we could potentially talk about, I have boss design by genre, and so it'd be
by genre,
segment.
yeah.
Every
So stuff like that.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting for us. Hopefully, interesting for you. We'll certainly upload the full episode, but on YouTube, this is where the 3 weeks will afford some more editing. We'll cut those sections. We'll have the beer, the topic, maybe what we've been playing. We might leave that in the full episode. But the brewery review, the extra topic, and then the full game discussion accompanying the full episode upload. So you'll have a few different playlists on YouTube that you can check out. And that's sort of what it's going to be. It's going to be a fuller episode, probably closer to 3 hours for most of the episode, if that's the case. Most of the episodes will go back to structured breaks. We're looking forward to that. Just having more time to play games. We love going out. Us and our wives, we go on double dates all the time. So it'll just be natural, and we'll be able to incorporate things that we're doing normally into the podcast, along with the scheduled game that we have playing. So that's what we got coming for 23.
Yep.
I think that might be 16 or 17 episodes lined up next year.
Cool.
So much fewer than we have been doing, but we'll play more games also. Anything to add, sir?
That's it. I'm excited.
Okay. Me too, man. I'm glad to be done with 2022. It's been a good month and a half, actually. I'm excited for my new job. Excited for the prospect of just going through my backlog. That's another thing. I created a backlog for next year with a few different categories, basically. I want to visit some of my the racing games in my collection. So I think I've got 7 racing games, which I'll just dedicate a week to or so and play a couple hours of each of those. The first person adventures, the match 3s I mentioned, Pokemon games, and then I want to play one game on each of my consoles. And also one of my very expensive games, anything over $100. So I've picked things for each of those. So I think I have like 40 games. I might not finish all of them, but I'll play them. I will give them a fair shake, especially the racing games. I'm just gonna play them for a few hours and have fun with them and then put it away. But that'll be like, I don't know, maybe it's 8 games off of my backlog. If my whole collection is considered my backlog. 8 games crossed off. That's great. So that's what we got coming. We're looking forward to it.
Indeed.
It's gonna be good. Folks, thank you for joining us. We hope you stay tuned next year. The first episode is going to be Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, which we are recording. It should be released in the 3rd week of January. We're starting pretty late in January. We're going to get with it. And so we hope you stay tuned. Come back for that. And don't forget, folks, to share what you love with who you love.